they come around. Can't let them bring you down, 'cause you're either living life or letting it pass by.
Tonight on Countdown to Green, we take a look at how things shook down in Fontana. The crew updates you on all the stars, storylines, and stats. And Vicente Salis stops by the show. All of that and more coming up on Countdown to Green.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to the track Too Tough to Tame. The Lady in Black, the track so nice they nicknamed it twice. This is the Countdown to Green presented by Logitech G, getting you set for the eNASCAR Coca-Cola iRacing qualifying series. The next round up tonight for these O'Reilly race cars at Darlington. I'm Alan Cavana, happy to be here tonight, joined by always the best team in the business, the man behind the steering wheel, Ryan Vargas, and the man with the microphone, James Pike. James, Darlington, what a track.
This is a place where you cannot cheat success and excellence. If you've got driving ability, this place is going to showcase it for better or for worse. And especially if we get a long green flag run, you're going to see the best of the best when it comes to managing equipment, and tires come to the front. This is as good of a litmus test as you're going to find in this series or just about anywhere in eNASCAR. And the people who end up in front today, I think, are going to have earned their strong finishes.
Ryan, you know all about that, making laps around this track.
Oh yeah, no, Darlington is one of my favorite places to race, both in the sim and in real life. I love to carve it up and see fix here at Darlington, but man, these O'Reilly cars, with how loose they get through the corners, how much you have to slide, you're banging it off the fence in 3 and 4. It is such a thrill getting to go around this racetrack, and man, I'm just excited to see these drivers fight for the top honors.
It's going to be well earned tonight to get a good spot and get one step closer to the championship series. But first, if you're not here on the sim tonight, maybe you've been putting in laps on your console. Ryan, always fun ripping laps in NASCAR 25.
Absolutely. NASCAR 25, NASCAR's official video game with an in-depth career mode featuring Dale Jr. and Dirty Mo Media. All 4 NASCAR Touring Series is in this game. So everything from ARCA to Truck to O'Reilly to Cup. So that's the awesome thing about this thing is you could play upwards of, I think there's 200 plus drivers in the game with various detailed driver ratings. So that's exciting. Detailed laser scan tracks, So that's always really exciting. 40-player online multiplayer, in-depth car and team customization. And one thing that I really, really like about this is the approachable car handling model. You could be one of these pros in this race here tonight, fighting for the honors of racing in the eNASCAR Coca-Cola iRacing series, or you could be just like any average Joe. Crack open an ice-cold Coca-Cola, sit on your couch, and drive cars in circles all day.
You can never get enough racing, and we know that here in our world, James, because the College Series is alive and well.
The College Series is alive and well. The time attack has opened for the Sunset Splash, the final tournament of the season for the College Series. And at the end of it all, we've got 3 drivers that are mathematically eligible for the title. Connor Yarashak, one of them, won at Martinsville and picked up yet another tournament victory in the College Series. But it's Homestead, Miami. It might be one of the best mile and a half in eNASCAR. The racing is going to be great. The time attack stays open through April 9th. Week 1 of the tournament, April 15th, and the final week of the College Series season, April 22nd, 7 p.m. Eastern, all on eNASCAR.com/live. Plenty of opportunities to see drivers get after it in South Florida coming up.
Love that opportunity and love repping one's school. A lot of pride on the line. And guys, last week we were returned to Auto Club. Only exists now in the sim, and we saw a classic Auto Club race, Ryan.
We saw a classic Auto Club race, and we saw a lot of chaos, as you'll see very soon. Lots of multi-groove racing, but right here, lots of cars fighting for that little tight spot. You see Kwame get turned through the grass there, getting clipped right there. A lot of drivers just having a lot of bad luck. Michael Cozy Jr., another one of those guys that we expect to be at the top of the points pile. He has some trouble there. Blake McCandless, our good buddy there, he gets turned around, and then you see later on, one of our points leaders, Sebastian Marin, he gets involved in an accident. We'll see that here later on. But James, Auto Club proved to really shake up the points as we get to that later on, and how do you think this is going to affect us moving forward?
I think we don't necessarily know entirely, and I know that seems like a bit of a cliched cop-out to say, but there's so many variables in play with the way that the point system works, whether or not you're in split 1, split 2, split 3, and the sort of diminishing points returns that you get, that even if you get turned around like Sebastian Marin did here, sometimes it doesn't matter. Kenny Brady was able to put together an unbelievable drive on the outside, turn 4 last lap to get the victory, but this is the tale of the tape that we really are looking at coming into this evening. And if we're looking at trends, notice that there is a tremendous amount of split 1 amongst the top 20 drivers in points, mixed in with some of the top runners in split 2 and the most consistent drivers in split 3. So you don't necessarily have to have the outright highest iRating, Ryan, to be successful, but you need to be up near the top in order to give yourself a shot to make top 30.
Well, and speaking of being up near the top, Sebastian Marin, he's been the points leader for several weeks now. He drops to second with that spin, but another guy who's been up at the top, Eddie Kerner, he missed last week. He decided, I'm going to sit back and just watch you guys have at it. And guess what? He is still P6, 458 points above that cut line. James, this is intense going through this field and seeing how many guys are shaking and going all about this running order.
We're about at the point where if you're in the top 10, not that you've mathematically locked things up, but realistically, if you just put together consistent starts, you're going to end up making it to free agency. This is the piece that I think is fun. Daniel Falkingham did not have a great week last week and now is only 91 points above the cut line. And Kenny Brady, even with the win, just gets into the top 30 entering this week at Darlington. So it is very much all to play for, I think, not only for all the drivers that you see on the screen, but you can slide down to maybe 60th, 70th, 80th in points and say, realistically, you still have a shot.
Absolutely, and speaking of having a shot, this is the format that these drivers are having to go through, the gauntlet, I'd like to call it. Obviously, we just finished up 4 rounds in the NASCAR Craftsman Truck. We are in the 3rd race of the O'Reilly Auto Parts Series cars, and then we wrap it up with 3 rounds of the NASCAR Cup Series cars. You get 1 drop round, a mulligan. We talked about Eddie Kerner. He already used his mulligan. He sat out, also adding on top of that. So that's so interesting to see how these drivers who have those points are using that drop round. Multiple races are happening at once with the splits all going on. And James, this is the schedule right here that we are all talking about.
I'm so excited for these next 2 weeks. I love watching racing at Darlington. I love watching racing at Bristol. And then look at the lineup we have for the Cup Series. Chicagoland back on the schedule in real life too. Fabulous track in iRacing as an intermediate. Michigan, we've seen great shows at, great races at. And then Texas to cap it off, where drivers have a lot of experience. Texas has been a cutoff race in this form of racing and in NASCAR for a while. So no shockers there. But Ryan, before we even get that far down the schedule, let's talk about the car.
Absolutely, the Coca-Cola vehicle analysis right here. This is the NASCAR O'Reilly Series car. 358 cubic inch V8, and the beautiful 650 ponies under the hood. 4-speed manual transmission with a 3400 just to take over that weight right there. We got 4 Goodyear Eagle slicks, and man, this car with that itty bitty spoiler and that itty bitty splitter, you know they're going to be sliding around the track too tough to tame.
A whole lot of horsepower to work with for those drivers that they have to control at the track too tough to tame. It's our License XT track analysis for Darlington. We're in Darlington, South Carolina. This track, 1 mile and a third in length, just over 2.1 kilometers. 25 degrees of banking in turns 1 and 2. 23 degrees of banking in turns 3 and 4. The straights have 3 degrees of banking. Logan Clamp at the winner the last time out. But the most important piece of this, Alan Cavana, the radii of turns 1 and 2 and turns 3 and 4 not equal, because they had to build around a pond to the side of turns 3 and 4. And so you can set up the car for one end of the racetrack, but getting the balance right on both ends of Darlington, really, really hard to do, but that's what makes it fun for us to watch.
Oh, makes it a lot of fun is to see these racers really have to race each other and try to survive. Great setup, gentlemen. And what we always like to do every week is hear from one of the drivers that all these qualifying series drivers are chasing. And tonight we have one of the best, Vicente Salis, joining us here tonight. Vicente, thank you so much for joining us. You're waiting to start your season, the championship season. How you been?
Yeah, I've been really good. Just preparing for the championship season. You know, I think it's really, really big to stay mentally locked in, keep running laps on your sim, and especially with the updates that iRacing is putting out to improve the product and improve the way it all feels. You know, you want to stay up to date with how that's all going. So definitely been practicing with my Dead Zone Racing guys, and we're really ready to fire up the season here soon.
You're bringing us big news here tonight when we're announcing it right now. Where are you going to be when the championship season begins in May?
So I'm really stoked to announce that I'll be back in the 11 Toyota Camry for Kanan Esports with Miramar Financial on board and some other partners pending. But yeah, I'm super stoked to be back with him. This will be my 3rd year in the number 11. I feel like we've really built an identity with the number 11 in that car. You know, when people think of the Coke series and we're talking about it, like they think of me driving the 11, you know. So I'm really happy to be back and continue the brand and continue the story, and we'll see if we can finish a few spots higher this year in the championship.
It's not just racing for Tony Kanan's team. We've had him here on the show. He backs you 1,000%. He believes in you and your skills and talks about you as one of the best. What is it like having that support from an Indy 500 champion, one of the best known drivers in the world?
It's really incredible, you know. I never thought in my wildest dreams that I would get to work with someone like Tony Kanaan that has done so much in this industry and done so much to help out sim racing and bring it to another level. So just having him in my corner, his advice for everything I'm doing with my real life career and especially sim racing as well, he's just been such a huge blessing to me and my family.
We always talk about the sim to reality pipeline. You are one of those drivers. You are a real world racer. Fridays, Saturdays, maybe Sundays one day. Any plans for 2026 so far?
So we've got a lot of really exciting stuff in the works. I can't say that I will be running some national shifter kart stuff this year, but as for the NASCAR racing, like I said, we've got some really, really great stuff that are in the works, and I can't wait to announce it here soon.
All right, looking forward to that. Again, we're all looking toward May here on this show. Do you have an ideal teammate that would join you on Team Kanaan?
You know, there's so many good guys that are in the top 20 and as well as qualifying here in the qualifying series. I think if I had to pick one, I'd honestly have to go with 2, whichever one would want to be my teammate. But I'd have to say Connor Euroshak. I think he was really, really great last year. He didn't make too many enemies. You know, it's really easy to do that in your first year. And then, I mean, I think I'd be pretty dumb to not say Sebastian Marin. I mean, he's been performing out of his mind in this qualifier series. He shows every week that he's pretty much the best out there when he's got it all put together. So it'd be pretty awesome to have him on my team.
I love it. It really shows you're paying attention to this qualifying series. Who may be your competition when we start the championship series in May? We're going to Darlington tonight, one of the hardest tracks, sim, real world, for anybody. Any tips for these drivers tonight?
I mean, just got to keep the right side on it. You know, it's super easy to get up there in turns 1 and 2. And like Ryan said, especially in 3 and 4, those stripes come very easily, but they don't go away too easily, right? So you want to keep your vehicle clean. I think the other thing that's really big is keeping your tires clean. You know, it's really easy to push a little too hard on your right front, push a little too hard on your right rear, get to the gas a little bit too much, drive it in a little too hard, you know. So these drivers are really going to have to find a balance and a good pace to keep the tires under the car and give themselves long run pace. So it's going to be really interesting to see if there's comers, goers, where they're passing the most and what lanes they're running.
All right, Vicente Salis, thanks so much for joining us. Congrats on your news. We look forward to seeing you in May.
Thank you guys very much.
All right, like I said, guys, one of the best, Vicente Salis joining us. Let's get some final thoughts. Brian, we heard Vicente's analysis on Darlington. You know all about it. You have to race and survive and be there at the end. It's really a racing yourself sometimes.
Absolutely, and I love that Sente hit on tire saving, making sure that you keep those right sides underneath you, whether it's the right front or the right rear, because if you're out there trying to bonsai it out and trying to make those passes quick, you might pay for it later on, James.
I think this is a case where, to borrow an adage from eNASCAR Worlds of yesteryear, this is a race where you really do want to race the track, not the pack. If you can keep it underneath you and race Darlington, as much of a challenge as it is, the pack piece, I think, can sort itself out a little bit. I think if you put your focus more on beating the challenge that is the track too tough to tame, then that'll give you a better shot at making your way up the pylon.
Who can tame the lady in black? Ryan, James, thanks so much for the setup tonight. It's going to be fun. It's going to be a challenge, but it will be worth it as everyone trying to get to the championship series and chase that ultimate prize, the Dale Earnhardt Jr. Championship Award at the NASCAR Hall of Fame. That's a long way down the line. We have racing to go tonight. We're going green at Darlington right after this.
Racing isn't just a game. It's a way of life. Every lap, every moment. Practice is about consistency. Winning doesn't come easy.
Yo! My turn, Bubba.
Dude. Feel the road. Own the race. Logitech G wheels and pedals available now on Amazon.
Let's go racing in SoCal. Coming to the white flag, Kenny Brady to the race lead. That's a big dive from Navarro. Kenny Brady back to the front. Brady over Conklin and Navarro in Fontana.
I believe in something that I can't explain. The wind is calling out my name. Let it rain on me. You know I put in the hours, and I'm not gonna wait in line. I'm gonna take what's mine for the world to see. You gotta take the lead. You gotta feel the fire. It's all I see, and I still believe. Take the lead, take the lead, take the lead.
Live from iRacing's virtual Darlington Raceway, we say good evening, sim racing fans, and welcome to round 7 of the 2026 eNASCAR Coca-Cola iRacing qualifying series. Well, the talented field of hopefuls are 1 week closer to the road to $500,000 as we continue the O'Reilly Auto Parts segment of this eNASCAR qualifying campaign. And as always, we're happy you're hanging out with us. It's another Tuesday night right here on the iRacing Esports Network. As always, myself, Evan Pasoko, Kenneth Bueno, Alan Cavana with you for the call. And it was a fun trip back, we'll call it, to Fontana KB a week ago. That was chaotic. It was wreck-filled. Well, Darlington, unlike Fontana, a track that we are familiar with. It's basically on the eNASCAR calendar somewhere every year, but might share some characteristics if this thing gets a little wild.
And Evan, it's probably the only track on this schedule that it feels more like a boss battle with you and the other drivers versus a PvP, you versus the other drivers. Everyone versus this track, Alan. It's so tough to drive, but that's part of what makes a track like this, especially this part of the schedule, so very special.
It's just like the real world, right? Make it to the end, survive, use your tires, keep them under you, and make sure you race the racetrack. I know it sounds cliche, but the drivers that are ultimately succeeding tonight will be the ones who haven't hit the wall, who haven't got the Darlington stripe, and who have been conservative in terms of how much risk they want to do early and save it for doing it late.
Seems easy enough. Don't hit the wall, stay out of trouble. We'll see how that goes for the drivers here in Top Split. Of course, there's 11 different races happening at this time. We'll tell you how about those will affect things, and we'll check into a split number 2 over the course of the night. But we remind people on how this format shakes out. Kenneth, this new format we've adjusted to in 2026 seems like some drivers have gotten a hang of it quicker than others.
Yeah, the idea of this format is to really get the experience across all different phases of NASCAR racing. So we had the Craftsman Trucks for 4 rounds, the O'Reilly Auto Parts Series cars for 4 rounds. We're nearly done with that. And then the final 3 with the NASCAR Cup Series cars, which is going to prime up those contenders in the top 30 to have a shot when the championship series comes around with the same exact vehicles. The one drop round is still in effect. We saw Phoenix create possibly a lot of those mulligans for many of the drivers in the points, but still a possibility for things to further shake up. And the great thing about this new format, every single iRacer with a Class A license, a 2.0 safety rating, they have a chance to make themselves a part of the championship series field. And look at this, how far we're already into the schedule. And I again continue to argue this is the most difficult part of the schedule between Homestead and Auto Club the last 2 weeks, in chaos in different ways. Darlington's going to provide its own level of chaos in that sense, and then a short track at Bristol Motor Speedway where you can start to brawl and get a little more physical, Evan. That's where the heart of this schedule is really going to shape up into those that are really going to stay alive in the top 30.
Yeah, I don't think it's controversial to suggest, Alan, these next 2 weeks might make or break a couple of years.
Absolutely not, because you have to close out strong. The tracks that you have to do it at, like Darlington, are the ones that can be the toughest on the schedule. So to get through this gauntlet of trucks, O'Reilly cars, and then make it to the Cup section of the schedule, it's so tough, and Darlington will test them all tonight.
Well, they're ready to do battle. Qualifying has drawn to a close. Let's go trackside and take a look at your Coca-Cola starting grid. So pole position belongs to Brian Mercurio. A 28.697 is the trendsetter for the evening. He'll be joined by his NFR teammate, the number 20, Wyatt Tinsley, in the number 2 position. Then it's 3 times race winner in the top splits this year, Sebastian Marin, looking for a bounce-back week. Quincy DeWarman in the number 4 spot. Eddie Kerner and Graham Boland start on row number 3. Kevin Champagne and Garrett Maines will roll from row 4, with last week's winner Kenny Brady leading Cody Bias from row 5.
11th place will host Adam Garza in the number 48. Daniel Falkingham looking to recover after some computer issues last week at Auto Club Speedway. Garrett Lowe rose from 13th. Ray Alfalo, the 4-time champ of the Championship Series, back in 14th. Matthew Morton to close out the top 15. Michael Frisch in 16th. And in 17th, the top split debut for Dylan Basin, won at Homestead, Miami in these O'Reilly cars not too long ago. Andrew Navarro, now the points leader. Deep start from 18th. Michael Cozy Jr., 19th. And John Hall to round out the top 20.
Brings us down to the number 21 spot. You'll find Justin Smith there, and then a Championship Series veteran, Kwame Scott, rolling from 22nd. Sean Conklin will share row 12 with Christopher Pfeffer. They'll roll off 23rd and 24th. Matt Busa looking to make it back to the top level. He starts 25th alongside the 66 car of Blake Reynolds. Jacob Wilkerson starts 27 tonight ahead of Octavio Rondoletto, who rolls from 28th. And then through your top 30, Peyton Howell and Rocky Boyd III.
And a tough-to-drive racetrack for Blake McCandless deep in 31st means, of course, he's always got a shot at tracks like these. Justin Campbell back in 32nd, John Forbes Jr. 33rd, and Cody Johnson in the 17 did not set a qualifying time, the only one out of this 34-car grid to do so, starting last here from Darlington.
It's a look at your Coca-Cola starting grid at Allen and what will prove to be one of the shorter races mileage-wise of the year. We take a look at our Coca-Cola race analysis.
100 laps around this beautiful old-school racetrack, 136.6 miles. Pit road speed, 45 miles per hour. 3 tire sets available on a track known to just eat tires up. And the estimated pit window, 50 to 53 laps. Strategy can come into play, especially if you want those fresh Goodyear tires.
It's going to be a fun one. Looks like it's a little bit foggy in Darlington, South Carolina at the moment. Very overcast and gloomy conditions. 95% humidity, no risk of rain, but it is only 65 degrees. It is a cool track temp of 73. We'll see how that creeps up as we get race cars at full speed on the racetrack. Pace car down and in, field in the hands of Brian Mercurio. It's one of the toughest challenges on the schedule. Let's go racing in Darlington. Navarro was quick on the radio, calling out a stack up down in the midfield, but they look pretty good through turns 1 and 2. Battle for the lead carries on down the Boeing backstretch. The challenge comes from Tinsley on the outside as they single file out behind the battle for P1.
Very important, Evan, to keep yourself on the outside when you want to pass, like Tinsley is setting up here for the lead at the exit of turn 4. And he's going to get it with help from Quentin Warman entering turn 1. Couple cars slowing down at the very back. Might have been an issue for some drivers getting off of the final corner. But the such high speed 1 and 2 can really catch you off guard, especially when you're that high side car. You can get right up into the wall. Tinsley did a great job keeping himself off the barrier, and now he's got control very early on.
The top 10 just filled with some of the most familiar names that have been to the Coke Championship Series before, those that have known checkered flags. That's not a coincidence, guys. This is Darlington, one of the toughest. You would expect the cream to rise to the top of this game, and the best are at the top of this field right now.
Far from official eNASCAR throwback weekend, but I can't help but notice a couple of throwback-inspired cars. Warman in second, Marin in fourth. To that jump out right away. Some of the artists behind some of these cars on the teams having some fun with this annual pilgrimage on the eNASCAR calendar to the track Too Tough to Tame. So after that two-way battle for the lead that saw Tinsley go to first and Warman to go to second, Mercurio settles into third. You're on board with the Coca-Cola featured driver and four-time Championship Series champion Real Falla. Quick move down to the inside and around Adam Garza. That was for P12. Now he sets his sights on Kevin Champagne. Aggressive on the entry. Not going to be able to slide up and clear, though. He's got to leave a gap for the 91, who's going to be able to carry that speed off of turn number 4 much better.
And I like the points of emphasis during Countdown to Green, talking about the way that the swings of points can happen so quickly in this system. And for a driver like Real Falla, 17th last week at Auto Club Speedway, it was not the performance he wanted. And it's been kind of the same theme over the course of the season. But tonight, at a track like Darlington, where he is very good at, has won the Championship Series here before, several times in his long-tenured career, this could be the night where he can start to turn that around.
You can see the concentration on Quentin Warman's face. I mean, just having to, again, we call it racing the racetrack, right? Up in the front of the field for him, being able to somewhat be calm, no one attacking him right now, just logging some laps here, hitting his lines. So important at a track like Darlington, which can come out and bite you, hitting off, coming off 2, coming off 4. You can see the concentration going on. That's why they're at the front of the field right now.
An interesting fact for you, of the drivers inside of the top 20, not a single car who started this race on the inside line has made up a position in this race. The only drivers that have moved forward are drivers who qualified in even-numbered positions and therefore started on the outside line. Not a single one from the bottom has made forward progress in the 6 laps, now 6.5, that have been completed thus far in this one. Again, it was that Toyota 1-2 punch of Tinsley and Warman, who both used the outside to get around pole sitter Marin. He is pole sitter, I should say, Mercurio, who's down an additional spot. He's down to 4th because Marin just got around him. So 3 spots lost for the C2CRacing.com machine, who started in the number 1 position. Again, it is a challenging race. We saw when we took a look during Countdown to Green, these drivers can get just past the halfway point if the race could go green, but it's not what we expect to see at a Darlington race. But you get a couple of green flag laps under your belt, and that number 100 on the scoring pylon looks like a really low number.
It does, and that means for the drivers, they have to really be quick on their feet about what they have to do if this race ends up going into a long green flag run, sort of like we saw at Homestead at Miami. If it goes green long enough, you already start thinking in a few laps' time, all right, how am I going to set up this eventual pit stop? And that's kind of what makes these races, not really marathons, they're just sprints, and you have to be very disciplined to save enough tire while also being in the right position to give yourself a shot at the win if you're not leading already in that final stint.
We jump in and take a look at what's happening in split number 2. Again, valuable points on the line for the drivers running in this second split. Honeycutt is one of the drivers we're looking at now as they are running under green flag conditions as well down there. Looks like, I don't know, maybe a little bit less fog conditions, but they're also dealing with the overcast skies and cool track. Curious how that lines up with what some of the drivers were expecting coming into this one. And again, we'll monitor those track temps. They are going to slowly work their way up. But again, it is a cold races and a side-by-side going on. That 5 car almost pushed up and into the car there outside, but the top, using that banking to its advantage, is able to stay in front. Looked a lot like the battle we saw with Alfala for 12th not that long ago in the top split. So we'll keep you posted on where your top runners are in both, obviously top split, but also down in split number 2. 2 has got those critical points. I mean, Jake Nichols won the top split race in Fontana a week ago, moved him up to 32nd. He's now a bubble driver in the conversation about who's going to advance or not.
Nice pass for position there from Caden Honeycutt. Obviously one of the drivers doing that sim to reality. Former Coke Series winner, Championship Series winner, raced here at Darlington in real life in his truck series ride not too long ago, getting ready for Rockingham this weekend. And nice to join us here down here in the qualifying series, trying to show everybody what he's still got as we go back to top split. And a familiar face, the 23 Sebastian Marin. As if we needed more motivation, guys, he's now in Jimmy Johnson colors. I think he's trying to tell us something.
It's a little weird, though, Alan, because this is the scheme that he won at Auto Club in 2009. This is the Jimmy Johnson Foundation colors. I remember watching that race back then. I have a diecast of that on my shelf on my left-hand side. So I thought it was a little funny. I know this has throwback flair that it's in Darlington, but could have ran this last week. I mean, that's Auto Club colors, Auto Club last week. Not sure why he didn't do it then, but still a great-looking car. And so far, the pace that we've seen from Marin all season long coming back into form.
I want to see a shot of Kenneth in the bottom corner with that car. If we need to analyze anything during the race, we'll just have KB pull the diecast out. He's got it, and Kenneth can be our cutaway car on a picture-in-picture. A lot of iconic schemes, and again, that it's a 23 tonight, but an instantly iconic and recognizable scheme from that number 48 team. Everybody, again, single filed out. I'm not going to say they've mellowed out because you see how tightly condensed the pack is on one another, but again, it's so challenging to establish position to try to make a pass. You go to the inside, it's going to be wide open, but if you don't clear that car in the center, they're going to carry the speed off, and you're just going to be tearing up and eating away at your tires down on the bottom. So this battle is for the number 16 position. The Price Chopper Toyotas lead the group. It's the Adam Garza entry in 15th, and then Michael P. Frisch in the number 16 spot, just ahead of the Coca-Cola machine of Michael Cozy Jr.
And you look at Michael P. Frisch, that 16th place car. You mentioned the cut line already in effect with the point swinging, how Jake Nichols surged up, how Kenny Brady with his win is now only 2 points above that cut line. You want to know the one driver behind him right now? 2 points back? It's Michael P. Frisch, the Florida native from Fort Lauderdale. So he's going to try as best as he can, like Garza did in that very momentous run he had last week at Auto Club Speedway, getting laps up at the head of the field and being one of those better on the late tire strategy. Frisch so far in a good spot, but this is really the hornet's nest of it all. Mid-pack where everyone starts to peek in their moves, and one of those is Andrew Navarro, who hasn't made progress since the drop of the green, but we know he's hungry if he wants to keep that points lead intact.
I like what you said about Frisch because he's got his eye on the prize. We talked to these guys before the season starts, and he just said his motivation is to be one of the 40 best, and that's making it to the championship series. That's what this qualifying series is all about, making it into that top 20 to be one of the top 40 championship series drivers when we start in May. Michael P. Frisch right there on the cusp. Good run tonight so far.
Look it up to the driver who started and currently runs in the number 5 spot. It's Eddie Kerner at DNS a week ago in Fontana. Dropped him down on our standings to the number 6 spot. Again, that will basically ensure that counts as his drop week, so maybe not an accurate reflection of where he ends up, but a driver who's been one of your top runners in the field, but has lost his ability to rely on a mulligan by not starting that race just a week ago in Fontana. So if he does have a poor result, he's going to have to eat those results and those points, because you can't do any worse than a goose egg on the board. He's doing real good right now, and it showed a lot of speed throughout the night. A top 10 car in practice, of course, qualified and runs in the number 5 spot at the moment. Next time by, going to be 1/5 of the way through this 100 lap, and what equates to a 136.6 mile long battle here in Darlington. Again, no change from up front. Wyatt Tinsley took over the top spot at the end of lap number 1. He continues to lead and is pulling away a little bit. Now a half second ahead of Quinton Warman. That is the largest advantage we've seen for the number 1 spot so far in this race. So it is trending in the direction of the 20 car.
And you look at this top 3, Evan, and these already from lap 21 onwards are already recoveries from last week. Think of what Wyatt Tinsley had to go through. Crashed off turn 4 midway through the race. Quentin Warman not only dealt with 1 but 2 incidents in that race. And then Sebastian Marin, I think in your quote, Evan, the chink in the armor for the most dominant driver of the season was him spinning off turn 2 and being trapped in the back of the field for the rest of the affair. So already back on a level playing field, back at a hard to drive track, and Tinsley, Warman, and Marin taking care of business early on.
Checking back in with split number 2. This is the battle for the number 5th place as Dylan Cardenas, the driver that everybody's chasing down. You've got Evans, Pataska, and Bradley in line. So just like how we were watching a battle for 15th and top split, the midfield, same part of the racetrack, is where these cars are tightly condensed together. Still not seeing, though, any big movers outside of drivers way back in the 20s or 30s. So passing at a premium and has been a challenge thus far for these drivers. And it seems like what we're seeing in split 1, pretty similar to what we're seeing here in split number 2. Blake Neer in the 14 is your split 2 leader. Jake Nichols, Carson Bowers, Tyler Gary, Jaden Hopp at the top 5 in the running order. They are also, knock on wood, without an incident thus far and green from the start.
As short as this race is, we still talk about racing the racetrack, right? Being there at the end. Maybe there is a little conservation going on. There's no need to push it yet. If you're midfield, maybe. But toward the front, if we're seeing some of this single file racing, or we're just not seeing the attempts at going high and making the deep passes, we are seeing some conservation right now because we are only a quarter of the way through these races. You have to be there at the end.
We see the shirt there for Carson Bowers, one of the drivers in the eNASCAR College iRacing series, which is coming up on the end of their semester. We'll be crowning a champion as we head into the month of April. So Bowers representing Purdue University, also one of the drivers trying to get to the championship series of the eNASCAR Coca-Cola iRacing series. He's having a good run right now, top 3.
And it's got the drip on as well, probably giving him a bit of extra horsepower as well. I'm sure he's not, maybe a little heartbroken that Purdue fell to Arizona in the Elite 8 a few weeks ago, but still Boilermaker proud and through. And if you want to join the eNASCAR College iRacing Series, $60,000 of scholarship prizes, the Sunset Splash, and my home track, Homestead of Miami Speedway in a few weeks, Time Attack, and of course the week 1 of the tournament. Carson Bowers has been one of those few drivers double dipping between college competition and qualifying series competition. He's got a good look at Jake Nichols peeking to the inside. He was hounding on the rear end of Blake Neer for a few laps, setting up this pass in turn 3, and Jake Nichols takes the lead at lap 26.
It's exactly how he needed that pass to happen. He had to get in front of Neer as they came off of the corner, and he did it. It also looked like Neer probably could have forced the issue more, but I think maybe acknowledging that Nichols had the better car, is able to get through. And now the question is, you give that 73 Ford clean air out in front, just how much faster is he at this point in the run? Is that 73 going to pull away and open up a gap? And if he does, if you're Carson Bowers in third, you're next man up. If you feel like this race is going to stay green, you need to make a pass on Neer sooner rather than later. Keep the pressure up. Do not lose your laps. And there you go. He goes down to the inside in the battle for second and is going to do the exact same thing. So Nichols through for the lead. Bowers through to second. Even Jaden Hopp now in that battle for third. So there's a lot of movement at the front of the field in split number 2. Not here in the top split. Average iRating 79.49. For the drivers here competing for the bulk of the points, it has been all Wyatt Tinsley. That gap stable at 0.5.
it's so interesting for Wyatt tonight because last week, guys, I dubbed him Quiet Wyatt, right? Because it seemed like he'd start midway through the pack and quietly work his way to the top 10, top 5. Not tonight. He started at the front of the field. This is the first time, honestly, all season we've seen him out front controlling a race. I'm so interested to see what he can do with it. Got a heck of a nice gap right now. Can he maintain this? Can he race the racetrack? Can he keep it off the wall? He's only racing himself right now. This is a unique spot for him in this series. He's been to the championship series before. A win tonight would go a long way in helping cement that return to the championship series. Nice to see him up there.
Definitely going to feel good for him, though, Evan. I mean, average finish of 23rd in his first 2 O'Reilly Auto Parts Series cars races. So it hasn't been the right note for Wyatt Tinsley, but he's singing the right tune right now.
And that's, it feels like, you're working from behind, or if you're not in a transfer position, maybe look at the points, feels like we're getting down to crunch time. We are. I mean, Tinsley's in a good spot, 17th position, hasn't made a ton of noise, but is doing what he needs to do. In reality, again, you can essentially make up just as much as you have lost or gained in the first half. You cannot just count out the fact that, 5 races, a lot can happen, especially with hundreds, literally, of points on the line. This isn't the championship series where we're talking about 40 and then 35 and 34. That's not how it works in these snake split series. You're talking about hundreds of points available for the top finishers in split number 1. So if you're that driver, try to get obviously a little bit of a better result, or in the case of Wyatt Tinsley, keep doing exactly what you're doing right now. I think he heard Alan's comments, maybe took it a little bit personally. He's making noise here tonight. Again, has not looked back since he had that pass on lap number 1. Dropping back to the battle for 7th and 8th position. That's the one of Garrett Main, was trying to hold off Cody Bias, and then a little bit further up the road in the running order, the battle you look at now is for 4th position. Brian Mercurio has got it. Eddie Kerner wants to take it away. Mercurio has only gone down the running order after starting from P1.
Yeah, it's been a bit of a drop-off, but you also have to think about where the long run and short run pace is for these open setups. These teams work very hard to figure out where in the run they want to make it as profitable as possible for them. Mercurio doesn't seem to be lining it up on the short run, got taken advantage of being that car on the inside lane, and now under fire from Eddie Kerner. But not to say that Mercurio isn't talented here at Darlington Raceway, because, I keep this format a little bit akin to what the Contender Series format used to be. Although it was only one car, it still was a short season, so you had to treat every single race like a do-or-die moment, and Mercurio stepped up to the plate, finished P6 the last time we were there back in 2024, and replicating with a good qualifying effort tonight, and still a top 10 that he can work with a bit of leverage here entering the first green flag pit stop sequence.
We're on board with Jacob Wilkerson, who sits in the number 29 spot. He is one of the bubble drivers who is loitering right around that number 30 spot and would really love to get a good result. So far, Homestead is going to be his mulligan on the year. Did not take a checkered flag in that one, or the green flag for that matter. So the lack of points means, much like we mentioned earlier, with the lack of a start that we saw last week out of Eddie Kerner, that safety net of the one drop, which is your worst result being removed from the standings, is gone. He does not have that luxury any longer by missing that one single start. 14 laps away from halfway home in this 7th race of the qualifying series. Again, jumping through the midfield and checking in on battles throughout the field, but it's still Tinsley, Warman, and Marin, your top 3. The 4 drivers who have won races so far this year in the top split, they're all running inside of the top 10.
And should that be a surprise at a track like Darlington? One of the toughest tracks to run on, one of the meanest tracks it can be, that can just come out and ruin your day coming off of turn 4 or turn 2. The cream seems to rise. It has so far. We saw it in qualifying. We've seen it so far 37 laps into this race. But the closer we get, the more the tires may fall off. The closer we get to that pit stop, that's when we start potentially seeing some movement up front and throughout this field.
Side by side in the battle for 21st there, John Hall, that's the 03 Nexus car on the outside, wins that first version of it, and then Dylan Basin loses 2 in a lap because Kwame Scott joined in and made the move on the outside. So Basin will go from 21st to 23rd. He has lost 6 positions on the night, so maybe as the longer we get into this run and we start seeing a little bit of degradation and wear and some long run speed kicking in for others, not swinging in favor of Basin. In the Gossett number 48 Toyota, nice orange and white paint scheme on that Ryco Performance machine, but going the wrong direction at the moment in the midfield. Those 6 spots lost, by the way, the second most in either direction on the night. The only driver who's moved more, Justin Smith, who is down 7 spots from 21st to 28th. So still, the gains and the losses pretty minimal as we check it back in with split number 2.
I like watching this race develop so far because, Evan, this is the coolest track temperature that we've seen out of the 3 races, counting this one that we've seen with the O'Reilly Auto Parts Series cars. Homestead was a beating hot track temperature, which is not surprising for South Florida, of course, in the middle of the summer or the spring months. Auto Club Speedway was relatively warm. This one is super cool with all of this overcast condition. And so what you see is the adjustments from drivers, mostly anticipating loose race cars, which you would normally see here at Darlington, but because the track surface is giving you so much grip because it's cooler, now you have to deal with more understeer over the long run. So the open setups have given way for some drivers to think about that ahead of time, and you're seeing the preparation for passes, how ginger they've been on just weaving their cars around. They understand they could easily wash up the racetrack if they get a bit too eager, like you're watching in this battle for position right in split 2.
And at least in the top split, track temp has gone up about 10 degrees from the start of the race. And trouble and wrecking in split number 2. There's a couple of cars spinning down to the inside wall. The number 42 is that Bowers, who has had some issues in the Williams Chevrolet. So trouble in split 2. I'll try to get a replay of that in a minute. But back in split 1, yeah, track temp up 10 degrees. It's 85 right now. So it's an increase of where it was earlier. But again, still a far cry from some of the hot, slick racetracks that we have seen at other points in this season, and what maybe these drivers were kind of basing their game plans and setups on coming into a track that historically has those kind of conditions. Well, Bowers was one of the names in it. It also sounds like Gossett was the other. So we are going to wind that back and take a look at split number 2. It's Bowers on the outside, Gossett on the bottom. And it looked like it was Bowers into the wall first, Alan, and then the cars behind him just did not have a time to react to the big loss of speed. He probably dropped 5-10 miles an hour with that hit.
There was a stack up there. We saw it. We saw the wall bite Bowers, and then behind them, it's a kind of a domino effect, that pool cue effect of one hitting another into another, and Bowers got the worst of it in split 2.
Alan, I saw Kenneth's reaction the minute that one happened to KB. A lot can happen, consequential stuff in both splits.
Oh, yeah, and Carson Bowers was a front runner. I mean, we were just talking about him in the top 5 not that long ago, and that is how quickly Darlington can rip away your fate at the front. It can rip away any opportunity you have at winning the race, and for Bowers, it was that one tiny hit off of turn 2 and a stack up right behind him that ultimately got him around. And just look at all these battling drivers in the midst of the top 20. That's Andrew Navarro. Remember, he's the points leader coming into tonight, and he's still scrapping for position. He still hasn't gained a single spot since we dropped the green flag tonight, and he's been in tow with Sean Conklin, Blake Reynolds, Dylan Basin right behind in that bright orange Toyota Supra. And you saw what Navarro had to do there, backing out in the middle of 1 and 2. You carry so much speed, but as I mentioned before, that understeer hits you very quickly on that second part of the corner, so you had to back out, or else it would have been a big mess. And they're back single file. That's a good sign for Navarro that he's not getting into any more sketchy contact.
We're seeing the right way around as being, especially toward the end of this run, right, being right up there against the wall. And if you can't, you get too loose going into that corner, it's the slower way around. So to make a pass is even tougher. Again, we're 46, 47 laps now into this. We should be seeing, on a fuel run, pit stop, you would think within 10 laps or so, if they're going to be under green flag conditions, that is going to create some scenarios that will turn this field around.
Still keeping an eye on that battle behind Navarro. He just hasn't gone anywhere. Started 18th. It's exactly where he runs. You see the positions gained or lost on the left-hand side of your screen. And again, some more than others, but no big swings. And Andrew Navarro is coming to pit road. So the first taker of the afternoon Peyton Howell is in also. So just shy of halfway. The gauntlet has been laid down by the cars in the midfield. And now how quickly do the top runners decide to respond? And what, again, everybody was aware if we got to this point was going to be a one-stop strategy. We saw over the weekend with the Cup Series a little bit of drama in Darlington a few weeks back with pit entry and communication. It works a bit different here on the sim. You can't stick your hand out the window, but you can queue up over the old driver radio channel, and you can use the driver chat. Some drivers choose one, both, neither. A little bit of that strategy here in the sim as well, but no immediate response to the pit lane from the leaders.
And talking about strategy, you mentioned seeing it in the real world over the weekend. Making a call when you're not in position to win the race, you have to do something different. Pitting early, it seems a little early to open the pit window this early, but maybe it pays off if you can somehow get it on the long run, and it switches it up for everybody. We're now seeing more and more come in. The pit window is open. Other people are going to start coming down. This is Michael Cozy coming down for his pit stop. It's just a matter of who responds now that that first car has come down pit road.
Dylan Basin over the radio says that he will be coming down pit road next. He's in the number 19 spot at the moment, and he drops down off the running order and is headed towards the pit lane right on cue. It's a bit of an interesting pit lane entry. Of course, you run so far up against the wall that it gives you a lot of options in terms of when you want to turn in, how aggressive you want to get down to the pit lane, and then you got to watch your speeds. There's a downward slope to the pit lane, which has caught some drivers before, as we now get a split screen look with split number 2. They are back under green flag conditions after the wreck they had on the backstretch. Top of your screen, we're halfway home. And to pit road, Adam Garza, Bride Mercurio, and Eddie Kerner. A couple of big names now on the pit lane.
You know, we've talked about other tracks and intermediates on the schedule where you have the problem coming on a pit road because you're braking and turning at the same time, and the danger is you hit an apron transition and the car over-rotates and spins. This track has the opposite problem. You have so much of the flat pavement on the bottom that you can easily overshoot pit entry. We've seen plenty of drivers in the sim hit those pit road barrels because they just can't get the car turned enough to get down there, while also trying to limit the amount of time lost that they can have on that entry alone. So this is a fine line you got to toe as Kenny Brady hits pit lane. Up in front, Wyatt Tinsley continues to lead, but there were several other drivers that are calling for pit road, and that does include Garrett Maines, who runs 5th right now, and the same for Michael P. Frisch, a few spots behind.
Jumping to pit lane before the leader, if you're in that lead pack, that can give you that advantage. It will give you an advantage coming off pit road. It's just a matter of what you can do with it and how Wyatt Tinsley responds. Garrett Maines pitting from the top 5 right now, trying to get the jump on the leader. When you see this happening, if you're Wyatt Tinsley, if you're Quentin Mormon, now you start thinking, how fast do I need to get down pit road? Because the longer you're out there, the slower you're going and losing time to those drivers on new tires. So it should be only a matter of laps, but that 1-2 laps that Garrett Maines may, get an advantage on them. We'll see what he can do with it.
The best lap of the race that race leader Wyatt Tinsley ran lap time-wise was a 29.690. That was on lap number 2. His last lap was a 31.560. So just off of 2 seconds of fall-off. So the immediate benefit is the drivers who pit earlier are going to get fresher tires sooner. They're going to make up track position. So for Tinsley, as the leader, likely will not cycle back into the number 1 spot, but then the advantage will be flipped into his favor. He'll be the better car later. Conklin, Falkenham, Morton, Bolin, all down pit road. Another big chunk of drivers from inside of the top 10, but Tinsley and Warman and Marin, your top 3, they all still hold strong. 56 laps in. How far do they go? It's time. Tinsley pulls down to the apron. Here comes the race leader.
This is going to be fun, Evan, to watch not only Tinsley's entry into pit road, but his exit and where he blends, because he will have the fresher tires, but as we've seen, track position has come at a very dear premium tonight. So if Tinsley cannot weave his way through traffic on tires alone, then what else happens? Who can take over that top spot and never look back? Quentin Warman is going to try to be that driver after the last week's struggles and contact at Auto Club Speedway, running the inside. He decides it's his time for pit road. He bobbles on the apron, so you don't want to have that happen. You want to stay on the inside of that yellow line. Good entry from Quentin Warman, and Sebastian Marin decides it's going to be one extra time. Cody Bias will also join in, but that blend for Tinsley as he cycled through to 12th still on pit road. Very eager to see how he comes back from all this.
It's worth noting Tinsley got into the box clean, though you talk about unforced errors, and you still see every once in a while, even at this top level, mistakes that can cost drivers time on pit lane, but it was clean for Tinsley. Warman now entering his box on pit road. His entry also clean, as diving down to pit road after leading a lap is Sebastian Marin. So the top three maybe waited about 6 laps more than we thought they would, but they are down pit road nonetheless. And that leaves about the top 9 drivers still yet to come to pit road. So getting a first look at a lot of names who've been back in traffic, trying to stay out, maybe catch a yellow in a strategy ploy. Reynolds, Alfala, Rondeletto, Pfeffer, and McCandless all of a sudden are your top 5 runners. But there's the speed between the cars on fresh tires who have pitted, moving through on the bottom and making the car on the outside. Alfala, who's in second, looked like he is standing still.
And that can make it tough to come to pit lane for these drivers that are still waiting to get there when the freight train is going by. So we have to watch that, because there are a bunch of cars that still have to make it to pit lane. If you are on the fresh rubber, you have to know the situation around you. Who wants to get down and get into that pit lane? These are things you have to watch in this pit cycle to keep yourself fresh on the track.
And Alfala now makes the dive from the number 2 spot. Blake Reynolds continuing up at the front of the field. So who is your net leader in all of this for the drivers who have pitted? Well, it's Eddie Kerner. If you assume that everybody else will cycle back through, Eddie Kerner is the lead car in the running order of those who has come down pit road. He is in the number 9, soon to be 8th position once he takes over for Alfala. So how far back is Tinsley? He will net out to about the number 6 spot, but again, we'll have better tires than all of the cars in front of him. So he is going to hope that as the best car of the night is, trouble on the front straightaway. Look out! What a save for the 19, as that almost threw the cycle into disarray.
And I was about to just mention that when Kwame Scott and company were getting around Blake Reynolds, who was on old tires, and you see him still getting fleshed out by all of these new tire cars. I mean, they stacked up in 1 and 2. They could have easily brought out some contact. There was Matt Busa on the inside, 3 wide Cody Bias, contact off of the wall by Blake McCandless, and a beautiful save. That's a wheelman effort right there for Matt Busa at the exit of 4 to keep that car straight. He's going to lose him some time. He's on pit road right now. But again, you have to walk that fine line when all those fresh tire cars are around you, because again, all that speed, if they catch you at a wrong part of the racetrack, it either creates a big stack up or ultimately they're going to hit you. Blake Reynolds decides this is his time to come down pit road, 63 laps into the stint.
So he finally decides to come down and in, and that is why the stay out and try to catch a yellow strategy is a viable one, because where are you most likely to run into trouble, Alan? It's on a pit cycle, and it's because of examples just like that.
Yes, and you never know, especially we were talking about before the strategy. If you're not going to win, if clearly you are not one of these top 5 cars, try something else, because the longer you can stay out and stay as one of these cars in the top 5, perhaps if a caution were to fly, it equalizes everybody again, and everybody else would go down pit road with you, and you have just won. You've beat the strategy. If that doesn't happen, you're just losing time to the leader and probably equalizing out to where you were before. But if you were in the back of this pack, some strategy call has to be made, because you weren't going to win doing what you were doing. That's why we're seeing some of these long runs here at Darlington, 65 laps in right now.
You see the number for the last pit stop lap on the scoring pylon, so that makes it very easy to understand. The top 4 drivers, there's not a number. They have not pitted. Everybody else behind them has. Now, Rocky Boyd had a big moment between he and Blake Reynolds that was almost an incident, so that got everybody's hearts beating a little bit. But you can see as Rocky Boyd comes to the pit lane, he'll drop down. And again, visually, Kerner first, Navarro second, Howell third of the cars who have pitted. Where is this going to cycle through? Obviously, Wyatt Tinsley has the highest number for the pit stop lap number, means he's got the best tires. Is 35 laps going to be enough for him to weave his way through those battles for position? Checking it back in split number 2, where Caden Honeycutt in the number 9 spot is up 21 spots. How about Tyler Latterell, 17. Thomas Lloyd, 17. Big swings that we have not seen in split 1 outside of those staying out on the fuel cycle.
That's what happens, Evan, when you have a yellow flag. You bunch up the field, you shake up the strategy, and when it goes green like that, you have everybody making their own decisions and drivers that could ultimately carve their way through the field as a result. So a great job for them. And you look at the drivers up at the front with 35 to go. Nate Stewart leading this race, and he was one of the more fantastic stories I've seen of the point swing. He's probably the perfect example over last week and entering tonight from Darlington. He was back 74 points and 39th entering Auto Club. He came into tonight's race only just about 43 points clear in 25th. He made a 14 position gain in 1 week. And now he's +6 in this race, and he's trying to hold on for the win, his first of the season. And that would be unbelievable for Nate Stewart and Jake Nichols, 2 very good point stays at the end if they can hold on.
It would be, and we've seen the opposite happen too. One bad night for some drivers, drop them big positions in the standings. So you live by the sword, you die by the sword. This points format will give you swings. We will see less and less of them the deeper into this season we go, whereas first couple weeks felt like top 15 were different every single week outside of Marin sitting up top. But there is still a lot to play for, not only on the year, but in both of these races, as split number 2 inside now of 35 laps to go. Nate Stewart continues to lead. Jake Nichols, Jaden Hopp, Johnny Avila, and Logan Helton, your top 5 runners in that one. Meanwhile, in split number 1, everybody has completed their pit cycle. So that story comes to a close. And Eddie Kerner has cycled through to the race lead, so he is in the top spot, Tinsley in second. Joining you back in to top split action, where tonight's coverage of the eNASCAR Coca-Cola iRacing qualifying series is brought to you by Coca-Cola, the official fan refreshment of eNASCAR. By Logitech G, the official wheel and pedals of eNASCAR. And by the Sim Racing Expo. From the Green Hell to the Queen City, the world's largest Sim Racing Expo is racing into Charlotte Memorial Day weekend 2026. What has been green from the drop here in split number 1 at the world-famous Darlington Raceway. Opened back in 1950, the oldest paved super speedway in NASCAR. When it hosted the inaugural Southern 500, it was the first 500-mile race at the NASCAR Cup level. Tonight hosting the hopefuls of the eNASCAR Coca-Cola iRacing qualifying series. Eddie Kerner, up in front of the field for the first time tonight, is hoping that 28 laps is enough time to nurse a 1.7-second lead over the dominant car in Wyatt Tinsley. But look at this conglomerate from a 7th on back.
Any of that fresh rubber all these drivers had is rubbing itself off right now. And that's what's tough, right? If you were a Kerner and you called your strategy best, you've got that clean air, you are out front. You have only Wyatt Tinsley challenging you right now. Meanwhile, just a few spots back, it is a bit of a hornet's nest. I mean, in the top 5, top 10 here, as we're trying to go 3 wide at Darlington. Doesn't always work for, I think that's Kenny Brady down there. But again, as he said, fresh tires, and now that good stuff is wearing off. And you're going to see it's going to be tougher and tougher for these guys to pass and ultimately get back up toward the lead.
contact and out of shape. It's going to be Kevin Champagne who gets loose in 3 wide moment. Just to the right of your screen there, Rocky Boyd put him 3 wide, almost watered him up. They're still having issues on the back straightaway, and somehow they're going to sort it all out. So some of that closing rate drama that we saw in the pit cycle continues here. Cars on better tires, older tires, mingling. In this case, they're mingling for position inside of the top 10. Well, let's bring our driver analyst for the night back into the conversation. He's the driver for Kadani Sports in the eNASCAR Coca-Cola iRacing Championship Series. And Chente, you've been watching this race play out. What's your assessment of what we've seen so far tonight from Darlington?
This has been such a great race. I mean, these guys are moving all around the racetrack. You can see them trying to use the bottom in 3 and 4, and if they can't get clear enough off of 4, those guys around their outside just kind of rocket right by them in 1 and 2. So it's been a really big cat and mouse game of who's on fresh tires, who saves their tires the best. But I mean, this cold weather as well really helps with keeping tires on it. So as this race goes on, you probably saw guys at the front figure out that they had a little more on the limit of tires. So it's been really, really cool to watch.
You mentioned the temperature of the racetrack and just the weather conditions in the sim. How much of the setup building that these teams do is based on a guesstimation of the weather? And if it's, like tonight, way colder than maybe they thought, as there's a punt into turn number 1, we'll be okay. But another hair-raising moment when the weather's different than what you thought. How much of an effect does that have on the car?
Oh, it has a huge effect. All of these teams and everybody normally builds off of some type of average weather, right? So they get adjusted their car to something specific, and then you get in the race and it can be completely different. So, normally this track is kind of hot, kind of slick, really, really hard on tires. And tonight what you've seen, it's a track that's really cool, and they're carrying more speed, which is what's going to wear their tires out instead of the actual temperature of the racetrack. So these guys were probably thrown for a loop. You're probably seeing them throw in some pre-race adjustments that may or may not have hit here on these runs. But yeah, it's been super cool to see these guys adapt and run a different racetrack than what they probably practiced and anticipated.
Battle for the lead on and over in the blink of an eye. You see it on the scoring pylon. Back to the race lead goes Wyatt Tinsley. He went longer than most of the cars that were around him. At least 6 successfully undercut him on the pit cycle, but he uses the fresh tires to drive back to the lead. So Tinsley 1, Kerner 2. And we'll see just how far down the order Kerner slips. Warman and Barron behind him also with better tires to about the same degree that Tinsley had. We'll see if Kerner can maybe hang on to a top 3 here, or if Warman and Barron are going to get back and into those positions. 20 laps to go, though, in this race. I would assume, and you can tell me if I'm wrong, Vicente, these drivers weren't anticipating a green flag race all the way at Darlington. I mean, we always hear about the chaos and, these drivers prepping for anything. I think certainly they knew what to do if we went green, but is this a track you roll off the trailer at and this is what you anticipate happening?
I mean, honestly, no. I feel like this is one of those races you anticipate maybe a really early caution or really late caution. So you try to build around some type of green flag pit stop, but at the end of the day, you never know when a caution is going to fall here because of all the groups that get together and the hard racing that comes and goes. So this is a beautiful strategy by Wyatt Tinsley. He knew the field was spread out. He knew he would have the chances to pass and get by all the older tires, and he played it perfectly. So now you see him pulling away from Eddie Kerner. You see guys behind him coming and going with the fresh tires. So taking advantage of the real estate and the way this track races.
Vicente, I was a little curious because we've been watching with the way this track is rubbered in, that really dark line that we're seeing on the track. It's become a lot harder for drivers to make moves on the inside. We know 1 and 2, he carries so much speed, so it could be harder then. But what has created that phenomenon like we're seeing with Falkingham, where he's trying to cut through the field, but any attempt at the bottom is washed away by the understeer?
Yeah, I mean, I think that as the rubber has built, it's moved up. And with the heat building in the racetrack, and the ambient being so cold, I feel like there's probably just more grip up there for these guys. So really the only passing you're going to see on the bottom now is if there's a really big difference in tire and if they long pit the guy that they're battling. But I mean, man, it's getting even closer up to the wall in 1 and 2. You can see these guys pushing the limits, getting even closer to the wall than they were before. So it's really, really awesome to watch and see these guys adapt. And I mean, this kind of just shows that Darlington's probably the best track on the sim. So it's been really cool.
Vicente, when we talk about the notion of racing the racetrack and ultimately racing yourself, what is that like as someone who does it so well? I mean, the concentration, the need to kind of almost forget the competition and focus on your own race. What is that actually like?
I mean, it's really tough to balance, you know. You are fighting guys in front of you, you're racing guys behind you, you've got somebody in your ear spotting you, painting a picture of everything that's happening around you. But at this specific racetrack, with how close you are to the walls and how narrow the line is and how close everybody is racing, it's really, really tough here, you know. So I got to race the Contender Series here back in 2023, and we ended up winning that kind of on a similar strategy to what Wyatt did, you know, long pitting, making sure you had the track position, the clean air, the good tires, and it was the same in the Coke Series in 2024. So you're really racing the racetrack here, and there's a lot of tracks where you're racing the drivers around you, but that's the beauty about this place, is you're having to balance so many things at once.
But Sensei, I think we're going to have to keep like a running log of all of our guest drivers that join us on the shows about what they think about this new format, because it caught a lot of drivers and teams by storm. And for you guys in that position where you get to watch this happen for the first time instead of racing in it, what have you made of this new points format and what it's allowed the drivers to either do leverage-wise or maybe in aggression, and how that's changed the format of now joining you and ultimately the other drivers that are in the championship series this year?
I think it's really cool, you know, with the free agency, there's more than 40 drivers, obviously, so there's going to be some people that qualify for that don't actually get to race full-time in the eNASCAR Coca-Cola iRacing series. So with that being said, you have to balance do I get really good points here and make sure that I make the top 30, or do I show all these teams that are going to be gunning to sign me that I can perform and win this race no matter the cost? So you're trying to balance the facts of making it in and being in the conversation, but like also you want to be the conversation. You want to show that you're that guy, and right now Wyatt Tinsley is showing that he's that guy, so it's been really impressive.
It's a whole new world with the modern free agency. And, of course, you announced with us on Countdown to Green you'd be returning with the Kanan Esports Camp. So we appreciate the scoop on that. Congratulations, Vicente. Thanks for hanging out. We greatly appreciate your insights, and best of luck in the championship series this year.
Thank you, guys. I'll be seeing y'all soon.
He's 5-time winner in the NASCAR Coca-Cola iRacing Championship Series. That is Vicente Salis of Kanan Esports. Looking at the two-box battle, top of your screen, the battle for third in split number one, as the slow drop down from the top position continues for Eddie Kerner. He is trying to hold off Sebastian Marin at a battle for third and fourth position. And on the bottom of your screen, battles continue for the drivers in split number two. Their race should end shortly after split number one, if things can stay green up top. That bottom split has had one caution flag on the night, 0 thus far for the drivers in the top split, as Tinsley now enjoying a 1.8 second advantage. And Marin, I think, is trying to exercise some amount of patience in this battle for third.
It's just looking at what he can do here to try and wiggle around Eddie Kerner, and that's the place to do it. You get a great run off turn two, you set this up on the going back straightaway, and then you dive in turn three, and you just hope that you can just sail right in front. Eddie Kerner, though, near the outside wall. Marin got a little eager, too much gravy on the entry of turn three, and just about gets by. But I was going to mention, Evan, here at Darlington, you play this so differently than you do at other mile-and-a-halfs or intermediate tracks, because you don't set up the passes in the corners. You set them up mostly on the straightaways. You know you cannot just dive on the inside in 1 and 2 unless the driver just makes a huge mistake and cuts a lot of time in front of you. And the same in 3 and 4. You have to make sure you get your nose ahead by the end of the straightaway so that in the corner you can nose first, make that dive, and then the driver on the outside has to make that reaction. A smart move by Marin, but could have gotten a little sketchy there.
Yeah, and look, sometimes you have to make a business decision. Eddie Kerner probably should have. He wasn't going to have that clear. He probably wasn't going to make it on the outside. We see the gap and the distance there. Sometimes it's easier to just let the faster car go if you're Eddie Kerner. We know he's in a good points position, but tonight, maybe not the night.
Just saw Matthew Morton make a pass on Michael Cozy Jr. for 10th, so that drops the Coca-Cola number 3 back to 11th position. He's just ahead of Garza, who's in a battle with Dylan Basin, and then behind them, some side-by-side racing with Champagne, Lowe, Conklin, all going at it in the high teens. Last opportunity to score some critical points, and just outside of the top 10 is a moment there. Spit out to the bottom lane goes Lowe. That's an important spot. Remember, once you get outside of the top 10 in split number 1, you are no longer scoring more points than some of the drivers in splits below you. And Garrett Lowe really now struggling. 2 more spots gone as Reynolds and Bias both get by. So Lowe dropping down now to 20th, has lost 7 from where he started this race.
And that's a difference of 2 laps to the driver in front of him, of Cody Bias. And just about more than that, at about maybe 9 to 8 laps between himself and Blake Reynolds, who's now cutting his way through the group. But it's been a Canada event to see that yellow car of Sean Conklin in a crazy battle all night long. He's been at the heart of this mid-pack. And again, we did see the effect at the front of old tires versus new tires. But that mid-pack is just a bit more sluggish on that. It takes a little while longer for that to fully become a crossover point, and that's what you're watching out of this track racer Toyota of Blake Reynolds, who at the moment sits 36 clear of that top 30 cut line up in 27th place. I mean, this is going to be important here. That split 1, split 2 crossover point of how many points you can gain and or lose on this performance. Reynolds is really going to have to work hard and lift that muscle here.
Was just watching the gap. Tinsley's advantage down to 1.2. I think that's more so gap management than it is trouble for the driver in P1 because his tire's only a single lap older than Warman's. I would be surprised if that gap gets to the danger zone. Look at that, though. Really squeezing each other on entry to the corner in this battle for 17th as Reynolds and Conklin trading paint now at a turn 2.
That's some of the tightest, closest racing we've seen through the corner all night, and it's getting more and more aggressive as these laps go down. 54 seating just a little bit, but if you are Wyatt Tinsley, you do not want to know this is going on, right? He does not want to see this close, aggressive racing so late with only 3 to go.
Yeah, don't tell me nothing about it. I'm just going to watch my relative for 1.2 seconds and try to count him down. Nerve-wracking late moments for Tinsley. He's got a little bit of lap traffic, but Kenneth, fortunately, no thick traffic to have to navigate, so just really wants to see the white flag next time by is when this race is official.
And even better news for Tinsley is that even if he does scrub off some time getting around the lap traffic, Sebastian Marin is setting up a pass for second on Quentin Warman at the exit of turn 2. So as they engage in battle, although the tire difference is in the favor of Sebastian Marin running third, that's going to naturally bleed off the time. So it helps Tinsley maintain that elbow room. Marin makes his way to the inside, and Tinsley takes the white flag from Darlington.
Battle for second, going to go all the way down to the wire, but what is not up for grabs is the battle in the number 1 spot. What a night it has been for Tinsley. Started second. That put him on the preferred outer lane. Made a pass for the lead at the end of lap number 1 and really never looked back. Weaved back through traffic after pit strategy. He'll go on to lead 76 laps. It's his first top split win of the year. Tinsley victorious here at Darlington. So Tinsley the winner. Warman hangs on for second over Sebastian Marin. And now 3 laps to go in split number 2, where the 81 of Jaden Hopp is going through those same motions, trying to get to the end without anything fun happening.
Might be the hardest few final laps, Evan, for a driver in this lead. And although he's only half a second and it's still within reach for Logan Helton, I mean, this is the point where you're either fully locked in your rhythm or you're starting to overthink a little bit. Every entry, every exit of these corners, you want to make sure you hit your marks 100%. And Jaden Hopp now less than a full lap and a half away from his first win in second split at Darlington.
Jaden Hopp told us that there was any part of the schedule he was excited for, it was the O'Reilly cars. A little nervous for Bristol, so if he can hang on and get this victory, I don't think he has to worry about too much in Bristol, but just a great run tonight if he can just bring it home. Coming out of 2, heading down the backstretch on the white flag lap at Darlington, Evan.
He's somebody else who has used some of the higher points available in those other splits to be able to keep him above the cut line. He came into tonight 19th as the 5th highest representative from the split 2 drivers a week ago, and a big cache of points going to help a lot. Jaden Hopp is your split 2 winner here in Darlington. So Tinsley wins in split number 1. This winning moment is brought to you by Coca-Cola, the official fan refreshment of eNASCAR. For the first time since the start of the year, we've seen 3 different race winners over the course of the last 3 weeks. It's win number 1 for Tinsley. Comes in round number 7. Let's take a look at your Coca-Cola move of the race. And it was after the pit cycle. He pitted later, Kenneth, than a lot of the drivers around him inside of the top 10. Set him up for this battle with Eddie Kerner.
2 syllables, textbook from Wyatt Tinsley. Sets up the pass inside before turn 1. Eddie Kerner knows Tinsley's faster on the better tires. He lets him by in turn 1, but Tinsley maintains his patience, makes the move when he can. He knows he can clear Kerner without any sort of contact, and that is exactly what helps Tinsley stay out in front after a dominating night for the win.
We take a look at your Coca-Cola full race results. We'll start with split number 2, where Jaden Hopp ends up victorious with a 7/10 of a second advantage over Logan Helton in second. Joe Armstrong, P3 tonight, ahead of Nate Stewart at 4th, and Caden Honeycutt picks up for a top 5 result in that one. Jake Nichols, Seth Knoll, Tyler Gary, Patrick Moose, and Johnny Avila, your top 10 finishers in split 2. And in split 1, Wyatt Tinsley, your 5th different race winner over the course of 7 weeks. He takes the win over top of Quinton Warman in 2nd and Sebastian Barron in 3rd. We'll try to get a word with those guys in just a moment. Eddie Kerner's strategy doesn't pan out for a win. It's still a good P4 night for him ahead of Garrett Maines in the number 5 spot. Last week's winner, Kenny Brady, follows up with a good points night in the number 6 spot, and Matthew Morton was down in P10.
Back in 11th, there's one of the Coca-Cola featured cars of Michael Cozy Jr. Dylan Basin in his top split debut, give him credit, top 12 after winning last week at Auto Club, or rather at Homestead a few weeks ago. Adam Garza in 13th. John Hall from 20th to 14th, a +6 average on the way through. Daniel Falkingham, a top 15 finish. Blake Reynolds, we saw him trying to cut through the field on fresh tires. He's in 16th. Cody Bias 17th. Kevin Champagne back in 18th. Sean Conklin was around some of the most chaotic races we've seen for position over the course of the season. He's 19th, and Garrett Lowe to the top 20.
Well, Rael Fowler started this race at 14th, and as a driver in the 70s in points needed a good night, it swung the wrong way. Loses 7 spots to finish 21st. That's not what he needed tonight. And then a couple drivers who just couldn't get out of there. Scott, Busa, Pfeffer, Wilkerson, all basically finishing exactly where they started. Forbes picks up some for a 27th place finish, and a quiet night for McCandless and Frisch, who dropped 14 positions in 29th and 30th.
And back in the last 4, 31st, Rocky Boyd the 3rd, Octavio Rondaletto 32nd, Cody Johnson 33rd, and Justin Campbell had an early exit 46 laps down, is where that 30 car finishes in last place.
It's a look top to bottom at your Coca-Cola full race results tonight here from the Darlington Raceway. Well, we'll transition into post-race coverage, and we'll get a word with your top finishers. It starts with your split 2 winner.
Here with Jaden Hopp winning for the first time this season in second split, Darlington Raceway. Jaden, you were a few, maybe couple tens of feet short of the victory last week at Auto Club Speedway, right behind Jake Nichols, but tonight you handle the business, you take the lead, and you take control. How special is the win tonight, and how did you get it done?
It feels pretty good. I put in so much work this week, and all the Nexus boys back home. They put in so much work. I put in so much work for this race, so it feels pretty good to go out and win this thing. Feels great to be a part of another Nexus 1-2. Just feels great. I've been working so hard through my career, and it feels pretty good to come out and win one of the most important races out there. It feels pretty good, and I'll be looking forward to the rest of the season going forward.
Important that you get this win, most importantly, but as well that you're 19th in standings going into this race. It's sure going to be higher coming out of Darlington Raceway. So what is that mindset you're going to keep in for the last O'Reilly Auto Parts car race at Bristol next week?
Probably going to put in a bunch of work again. Yeah, that obviously pays off. It paid off here. It's Bristol. I'm decent there, but it's going to be Bristol, so we're going to try to survive, keep the momentum going forward, and see how it goes from there.
Well, Jaden, it was great to talk to you. Congratulations on the win tonight from Darlington, and we'll see you and the field next week at the fastest half mile.
Hope to see you there. It was great to meet you all.
Jaden Hopp from second last week at Auto Club to a win tonight at Darlington Raceway and sipping that dub juice. Wyatt Tinsley taking the win. Alan, you've got him.
Yeah, from one winner to another. Quiet Wyatt no more. He is a winner in victory lane. Wyatt, the only question tonight was pit strategy. You chose to do that longer pit cycle than most. Was there any question in your mind you'd have the fresher rubber and be able to get your positions back?
Not really on like Eddie and like everyone that like undercutted quite a bit. I was just going based off. I wanted to pit 53. Like my hardcore lap was 53, but I was just gonna keep going until they wanted to pit, and then I was like, okay, 55 was like my hard stop. So that's what I was like. That's when I went down. I had a very clean stop, thanks to the pit crew. Got me off nice good. And then I got barely stuck in lap traffic a little bit. I think if I pitted 54, I wouldn't have missed all that like lap traffic and stuff, and I think I would have been like further ahead. But all in all, thanks to Jarrett Liebert, was the absolute ripper of a setup in Q, as well as in race. He's been firing off on all four cylinders lately, so I really appreciate him. And I gotta give a shout out to my spotter Ben, as well as Eddie. Eddie did a little frontline defense, NFR defense for me there. He held up Quentin a little bit, but all in all, I'm glad to be back in victory lane at this racetrack. I just love this racetrack so much. It's such a good establishment, so thank you to everyone.
No better place to be than victory lane, but you know what it's like to be a championship series driver, a Coke Series championship winner. This will only help cement getting you back to that series. What does that mean to you?
It means everything. I know the season's shorter, so I know I wasn't at like my pace level like last year and the year before that, so I'm trying to get back to online to Steven, but Steven's been really helpful as well, so trying to learn from him as well as learn from the team. And just this group of guys at NFR, Jarrett, Don, everyone just that worked at NFR has just done, and EPI has done a phenomenal job, so I really appreciate them a lot.
Wyatt, congratulations. Look forward to see what you can do next week at Bristol.
Nice seeing you, man.
Yeah, great to see Wyatt Tinsley, and we'll talk to the driver. Came up just short, Quentin Warman. Quentin, we're always talking about you at the end of these races. This week came up just a little short. What do you think made the difference tonight trying to catch Wyatt?
A combination of dirty air, pit strategy, and teamwork. With the new aero model that just came out in these cars, I knew once I qualified, I think it was 4th, I knew it was just going to be about riding and managing the tires. So, as y'all saw, I just sat behind Wyatt for the first run, hit it a little late because I figured the only chance I have is if I hit late, have the fresher tires. But the teamwork part I was talking about is Eddie, who's teammate to Wyatt. He did a really good job holding me up so that Wyatt could stay in the lead. So if I'm Wyatt, I would thank Eddie for that. And yeah, that was a good race overall. I'm glad it went green, because green white checkers at this track would have been really goofy.
Yeah, well, congratulations on the second place. You're right, it can be a team sport sometimes, and he did thank Eddie. So Quentin, get him next week at Bristol. Maybe not as much aero stuff or teamwork going on there, but we'll see you next week.
Thank you, guys.
Quentin Warman rounding out the top 2 in top split tonight at Darlington. Great race, guys.
A big thanks to Jaden, Wyatt, and Quentin for giving us a little bit of time to chat. And who would have thought the takeaway from Darlington in the end, Alan, is pit strategy and green flag runs. I was not going to be at the top of my list of things to look for.
Look, we talk about them being the best of the best, and if you can get around Darlington without any cautions throughout the night, they're proving us right. So kudos to them on a straightforward race tonight.
So more than a passing grade for the field tonight at Darlington, but can they pass the test of the last great Coliseum, Kenneth? It'll be the last race in the NASCAR O'Reilly Auto Parts Series Cars segment, and it's coming at you next Tuesday.
Better get those fenders ready. Going to be a lot of physical movement here at Bristol Motor Speedway, and also the last short track race of the eNASCAR Coca-Cola iRacing qualifying series calendar. So if you're good at these types of tracks and you like to be up close and intimate with the competition at a track as short as a half mile like Bristol is, well, you better be ready for that race next week before we go into the Next Gen Cup cars.
And we look forward to seeing you at that one. Until then, though, that is it for us here tonight from Darlington. On behalf of our entire team at iRacing, eNASCAR, and your broadcast crew tonight, for James Pike, Ryan Vargas, our driver analyst, Vicente Salis, for Alan Cavana, Kenneth Bueno, and myself, Evan Pasoko, I want to say thanks for tuning in. We're going to catch you in 1 week's time. It's the last race in these O'Reilly Auto Parts Series cars, Tuesday, April 7th, from iRacing's virtual Bristol Motor Speedway. That race and every race of the eNASCAR Coca-Cola iRacing qualifying series can be found right here on the iRacing Esports Network and streaming live at eNASCAR.com. Until then, good night from Darlington, and congratulations to your first-time top split winner on the season. It's Wyatt Tinsley, dominant in victory here tonight.